So Slovenia is a part of the North Adriatic Mission, which includes, I think it's 5 countries now. When I left, they added, it's sad that I don't know, but Macedonia or Montenegro, one of those countries. It's an M country down in the south. But it was Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, and Serbia. So basically the northern reaches of Yugoslavia, most of which was in war with each other just 20 years ago, when about the age that all of us were born. That was when they were all in basically genocide. So it's got a lot of rifts culturally between the different countries, but linguistically, the 3 lower countries, Croatia, Serbia, and Bosnia, speak the same language. They just say that they don't speak the same language. They say that they speak completely different languages, and they claim to like the 4 different words that they have from each other because they hate each other, essentially. But really, it's the same language. Slovenes speak an actually different language that is categorized as something entirely different. So missionaries who go to Slovenia tend to only stay in Slovenia because it's hard to transfer down and learn a new language. But I did learn a lot of Croatian. You just have to. There's a lot of immigrants that come up to Slovenia from Croatia, and our mission home is in Zagreb, Croatia, because it's sort of a central location in that part of the former Yugoslavia. We have, 12 branches, maybe more, in the mission. We don't have any wards. The biggest branches have about 100 people who attend every week, and we have actual church buildings for them. In Serbia, it's not an actual standing building, but it's a nice area. In Croatia, we've got a nice building, and in Slovenia, we have one. And then otherwise, they're usually storefronts that are converted into small chapels. So in Slovenia, we have 3 branches. I think actually they just opened a 4th up in Kranj. So now we have 4 branches. And the average size of the branch is about 15 people who go every week. And then Ljubljana had about 80 to 100 people. But now that they've opened in Kranj, I think they've divided it, so it's actually a lot smaller. So it's really small. We're working on getting it from being a district to a stake. That's like the goal. Eventually, someday there will be a temple in Slovenia that was promised by an apostle who came once. So everybody's really looking forward to that. When that happens, we're going to need a lot more members, but we're going to have that. The growth is just enormous in the region right now. From 20 years of stagnation, because we opened right after, in Slovenia, the church opened right when Slovenia pulled out of the war with Bosnia, Croatia, and Serbia. So the church has been there longest out of all the 4 countries, but the other 3 countries continued to just fight each other up until 1994 and 1995. And so it started going down in there only recently, and Bosnia only opened 2 years ago for the first time, and they're all Muslims. So they're not only divided by just mutual ethnic problems, but they're also divided by religion. The Slovenes and the Croatians are Catholic, the Serbians are Greek Orthodox, and the Bosnians are Muslims. And so people who serve in the lower 3 countries get to serve in all 3 usually, and you have completely different cultures because of their different religious backgrounds. That's partly why they ended up fighting so much. It's because the religious conflict was just pretty large. Also, people in those countries identify themselves deeply by their religion, whether or not they actually practice it, which is the majority of the time they don't. But they feel this real sense of nationality tied to their religious sentiment. And so when they convert to a new faith, it's sort of like leaving their nationality and ceasing to be a Serbian or ceasing to be Bosnian. And so it's very, very difficult for them. But the people who do it because they're sincere, and they do it from the depths of their heart, and they have to deal with enormous persecution. Slovenia, it's not nearly so bad. People don't persecute you as much because they're kind of like, they have this weird sense of angelology. They focus a lot on angels and mystical things and magic in the forests and stuff like that. And so they don't kind of really care what you believe as long as you just believe in some greater force. So it's a very interesting region in the world. And the church really is doing an amazing thing in bringing together people who have for literally several hundred years, all the way back to when the Turks invaded, been slaughtering each other. But they come together because they share a mutual faith and love of Christ. So it's amazing.
The Adriatic North Mission is one of the coolest missions I've ever heard of. I mean, you can go to tons of places, and every mission matters, but when I get to describe where I was serving, it's next door to Italy and Austria and Hungary, that Eastern European, edge, but each country has their own influence, their own culture, their own history, where the fact that as a missionary in the Adriatic North Mission, you have the opportunity to serve in each country, and so the countries include Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Montenegro. And these countries, they have their own significant history, being former Yugoslavia, lots of civil wars and everything that's happened there, that it's almost their countries are nationally recognized by their religion at the same time. So being in Slovenia, they're majority Roman Catholic, they're influenced structurally, culturally by Austria and Italy, so that's kind of their the way that the country was, how do I put this, their buildings, their buildings in more up towards Maribor, they have that Austrian feel, whereas I don't know, it was just really cool, there's the different cultures that way. Missionary wise, when I got there were about 70 missionaries. There just weren't very many. I mean, in Slovenia there were 12 of us, and that was tiny, comparatively to other missions. But towards the end of the mission, just because of the age change, they almost nearly doubled, and majority, we doubled sisters. But one of the really cool things is we had a senior couple in almost every area, which is kind of rare, but the senior couples helped out so much when it came to missionary travel and member support and things like that. And so I was always really happy when it came down to knowing I had someone to turn to, because sometimes it's just struggle, it was hard just to feel you're with your companion, but at the same time you feel kind of isolated from the rest of the world, just because your focus is so much different. You're set apart to be outside of the world, and so it was just really good to have senior couples there. Okay, so the missionary who was called there, most of them were Americans. However, we had some superstars from the area. We had a couple mini missionaries that we got to work with, but also a couple full-time missionaries. One actually got called to our mission. He's from Celje, one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, and he served, is still currently serving in Serbia and Bosnia, and he's in Serbia right now currently. But no, so there are missionaries both from the countries and from outside the countries, but the majority of the missionaries serving in the Adriatic North Mission are from the United States. We had a few foreign missionaries, but not too many. So, but not all of them from Utah, promise. So the sisters got pulled out of Serbia for a little bit, but other than that, we got to serve everywhere. I mean, I was lucky enough to be one of the first sisters to serve in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We opened up the city Banja Luka to sister missionaries, me and a brand new missionary. I'd been speaking Serbian for about 4 months. She was brand new into the country, and we just whitewashed the area, brand new, and that was an incredible experience, just realizing how much faith we had to put forth, to walk out the door each morning, where we knew all we had to do that day was to talk to people on the streets and have our luck at, talking to people through their doors, and I know that tracting and contacting can be spiritually guided. We had crazy miracles all the time, starting out in Bosnia, and the people there are so incredible. If I ever talk about the people I met on my mission, the people from the Balkans, people from Slovenia, from Serbia, from Bosnia, they are in my heart forever, and I can't, my mission, it changed the way that I love, and the beginning of my mission, I felt really strongly about being an example of the believers, going back to Timothy and how he like, that kind of a message. However, when I finished my mission, it was that perfect love casteth out all fear. It didn't matter how many struggles that I had, because I wanted to be there for the people there. And if they could tell that sincerity, if they could read that from me, then they were way more willing just to have a conversation with me, and that was really incredible in all of the countries, just learning what struggles like each person had, because it was cultural, like a lot of the family struggles or the lifestyle struggles, but being able to testify sincerely that, like, no, listen, like, I know that God loves you. Like, it made huge impacts, even if they were just small. A lot of the time the mission was seed planting. Like, as much as like I would have loved to watch all of the reaping, like, I was really blessed to be able to go and just put out the face, being that disciple that that could leave a good impression of the gospel on people. That was a lot of what I taught my companions. Like, it's like, it doesn't really matter if it's the struggle monster. Keep that smile on, because that's what matters. Like, when people see that you love life, and then they start to wonder why you're so happy.
The Adriatic North Mission consists of 5 countries. When I first got there in January of 2012, it only consisted of 3. So the 3 main countries were Slovenia, Croatia, and Serbia. Then in March of 2012, Bosnia was added to the mission, and the 5th country, Montenegro, was actually originally assigned to the Adriatic South mission. But then in July of 2013, there was another mission change, and Montenegro was then added to the Adriatic North mission to complete the 5 countries which now consist of the mission. The church there is relatively new. In 2012, they celebrated the 40th anniversary of the church in the former Yugoslavia area. They had a wonderful gathering down in a place called Zadar, which is where the church was founded, where it started growing. One of the main founders was a man named Krešimir Ćosić. A lot of older people remember him as the BYU basketball player. He came over from Croatia, joined the BYU basketball team, was converted, and eventually brought the gospel back over to Croatia, and was one of the first members and first missionaries over in Croatia to help the church grow. So now it is growing. Things are looking well. It's still only made up of branches. There are no wards or stakes. It's all branches and districts, which is a really unique aspect. There are 2 chapels in the 5 countries, church-built chapels. They're very simple but very homely. You can really feel the spirit of unity between the countries in these chapels.
In Slovenia, there's 4 branches now. So they just opened Kran branch a little under a year ago. So I was there when they opened it. And that's where all the missionaries are, in one of those 4 branches. So you either serve in Ljubljana, Maribor, Celje, or Kran. And I think now they each have 1 set of elders and 1 set of sisters. There aren't any wards in the mission that I know of. We're working towards it. And the closest temple is Frankfurt. So in August, I believe, and April, or sometime in the spring, they do a temple trip, which is a really big deal because it takes a while to drive. I think it's like 8 or 9 hours. I'm not sure. But they carpool up there, and then they stay up there for a week. And also, the only building we have is in Ljubljana, which is the capital. The church built a building, I think in like 2007, maybe. That building's there. It's like the standard building they build. The one in Croatia is exactly the same, like in Zagreb. And then the other 3 buildings are rented spaces. So that the church rents them from like locally and uses them as a chapel, but they're not actually, they're just rented spaces. So they're smaller branches depending on where you serve. Ljubljana split. So Ljubljana used to be Ljubljana and Kran. And so it just split. So it got a little bit smaller because half of the people went to Kran. The branch presidents are mostly senior couples, or I think the one in Ljubljana still is, he's working for the embassy. And then, but in Kran they have a branch president who's a local. And then the district president is someone from Ljubljana who's really great. But yeah, senior couples get called to leadership positions a lot, just because that's who the Lord calls. So the church has only been in Slovenia for like 20 years. I mean, it hasn't been there very long. So sometimes it's easy to forget, like, why isn't this growing faster? But I mean, if you look at the early church, it's very similar in that, like, you need to be patient. Like, we haven't been there that long and not very many people like know about us or like are comfortable, you know. And so it's just growing right now. So it's really exciting that way. I think Bosnia opened up maybe like 2 years before I went on my mission in 2013. So it's really young there. I think, yeah, 2 months ago, they just opened a new city. I want to say in Serbia. I don't know the rest of the mission as well, but it is growing, and it's really exciting that way. So a lot of them are Catholic, but not practicing. It really depends on what age range. So the older might be just atheist or like because of the communist or Yugoslavia. But some of them are really religious, like if they've lived through that and they, you know, really hold on to their beliefs. But in Slovenia particularly, it's mostly Catholic. I know the other countries in the mission, maybe they have other religions, but not in Slovenia. And then the younger generation, it's kind of, you know, they don't believe in God. Some of them believe in like an energy kind of thing. So maybe like there's an energy that connects the universe, but it's not personified. There are a lot more people there who are Hare Krishna than I thought. But I had no exposure to Hare Krishna before I got there, so maybe I was just exposed that way. I was just surprised that there were a significant amount of people that were more Eastern oriented that way, which was surprising to me. But yeah, a lot of them just kind of say, well, I already have my own religion. I already believe in Christ. I believe what you're saying. I already believe all of what you're saying is true, because they are Catholic. Yeah, we get some misconceptions. So in the cities, people kind of know who we are because they're smaller cities and we've been around for a while. But a lot of times we get Jehovah's Witness just because they're there too, and they're kind of doing the same types of things we do. I've gotten Amish a couple times, which is interesting. I always pull out my cell phone when I get that because I'm like, I'm not Amish. It's okay. There was a documentary going around for a while about us. I don't really know what it was about, but people kept telling us, oh, we saw you on TV. And we're like, I don't know if this is a positive thing or a negative thing, but we'll go with it. But yeah, for the most part, people have heard of Mormons before. Whether it's positive or negative is a different story, but they know about us just because they have television and the internet, and it's not a third world country by any means, so they have access to those resources. I think just distinguishing us from other Christian religions is difficult, because we do talk a lot about Christ and we are Christian, and so it's easy for them to believe, oh, well, you're pretty much the same as me, so why would I need to change? So, I mean, and then the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith sometimes can be difficult for them to understand, which is understandable.